The mailman doesn't deliver on a Sunday.
If you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Anthony for three. Bang! J.R. Smith! We just saw men fly. LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Cleveland! This is for you!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coast to Coast. I am Ronan Gaine. Joining me as always, Chris Nambu. Had to hop on to record today because the thing we've been waiting on all summer, the Damian Lillard trade, has finally gone down, but it's not to the Miami Heat. Damian Lillard is headed to the Milwaukee Bucks to team up with Giannis, a 3-team trade that sent Jrue Holiday to Portland, sent DeAndre Ayton to Portland. Nurkic is in Phoenix. We're going to get into everything. Before we do, Chris, how you doing there? You're in the darkness there, but I can see you at least.
I'm so excited, but I couldn't believe on any day it had to be the day. I've been up for 16 hours, and I'm hyped. I'm ready, but I'm also a little wired. We'll see where my brain goes with this. But I don't know why we're talking about the Dame trade when we should be talking about the Heat signing RJ Hampton. So that's my first gripe immediately off the bat. I thought you said we're gonna hop on. I thought we are gonna talk RJ Hampton redeeming his career in Miami. They got another dog there. I don't know, but I guess it's just me. But yeah, I guess we could talk about Dame. That's okay.
I mean, I suppose we could get into that aspect of it. I mean, okay,
let's do it.
Let's just lay out how the trade went down. Okay, so the Blazers, they bring in Jrue Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Toumani Camara, a 2029 first-round pick, and 2 pick swaps. The Bucks obviously get Damian Lillard. Then the Suns get Nurkic, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and Grayson Allen. That is the trade as a whole between the 3 teams. We'll get into all the major aspects of it, but let's start off with Dame. He's going to be a Buck. He's going to play with Giannis. What does that do for the Bucks, and what does this do for the closing years of Damian Lillard's career?
Okay, do we talk first, like what it looks like on the floor, or do we just talk about just like the feeling of it, the vibe of it?
Let's get the vibes. Get the vibes going first.
I think it's definitely, I think it's more fitting for who he's been throughout his career than what he would do in Miami. I mean, not to say that, Miami carries this very different reputation to them than maybe like going to a Lakers squad or like a Warriors squad or something like that. But I think going to the Bucks, going to a team that's really been truly small market, that it's really grown with hitting the absolute jackpot on Giannis and really doing the best job they could surrounding him. Like, he got to go to a team that I think Giannis and Lillard are really cut from the same cloth in terms of guys that are very loyal. But interestingly enough, like guys who also had their limits. And funny that Giannis, a guy who had his limits after just winning a championship, I think both of them kind of had to act in their own interest. And just in terms of like the culture of like who he is as a player and how he embodies a franchise, I think he and the Milwaukee Bucks organization, the Milwaukee fan base, like that, it's a match made in heaven. I think it's great. Milwaukee's going to love him. I think Portland did really right by him. There's going to be no bad blood there, I don't think. Like, I mean, you just sent him to not only a championship contender, but also a guy who really has been wanting to play with Lillard. So, I mean, I can't imagine a better setup. And I think this works out even better for him than it does in Miami, really, in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, no, I think I definitely agree, and I'm kind of happy for the Portland Trailblazers as well. Obviously, a huge blow when they just weren't able to figure it out with Dame as their lead guy, and they obviously had to get rid of him. But the Miami Heat package was just never going to be enough, and I'm glad they've got a lot more than they would have got had they tried to make this deal with the Miami Heat. They've got in a center in DeAndre Ayton, a young guy that kind of fits where they're at this moment. They got in a pick. They're probably going to get a few more assets for Jrue Holiday. So they've done a lot better out of this than they were going to do with any sort of deal that they were likely to make with the Miami Heat. And just for the Bucks, you just have to say, like, respect to them going all in. Giannis is their star. He's their whole franchise, and he made a claim basically saying that the way we're going now, it's not looking good. And we were all kind of buying in on it last time we did our rankings. We both had them so low. I think we'd probably change it after this, but the Bucks reacted quickly, made sure they got this big deal done, and I think it's probably even over what Giannis was even expecting a move to make. Like, this is adding a legit superstar to a top 2 player in the league, and a really decent starting team. Probably a really good 6-man lineup. Maybe there's a few questions about the rest of the depth, but in terms of the starting 5 and the 6-man, this is a pretty elite level roster now.
Yeah. And can we kind of go a little crazy about how like this fit on the floor? Because I just first of all, offensively, like it's so simple. Like it really is. Like, you know, you can go into the different sets they can run. Who, by the way, I had forgotten about this, but Terry Stotts is on the Milwaukee Bucks coaching staff. So you remember that, like, you have a guy who's very familiar with how Dame plays. You have a guy who really allowed Dame to just evolve as this high pick and roll guy, ran a lot of creative sets to get a guy who's, you know, think of the most dangerous shot creator in the league. And it's hard to say anybody but Dame. Maybe a few names come to mind, but Dame's right there. And you got a coach in his corner that knows how to get him set up. And now you add Giannis to that equation. You add Brook Lopez to that equation. That's insane. Like, Dame is a guy, when he gets going, you have to blitz the pick and roll. You have to double him at the point of attack. And sometimes you're having to double him at like 33, 30, 35 feet when he's really getting it going. And then you're kind of like, all right, Yusuf Nurkic, like, go for it. What happens when it's Giannis? What happens when it's Brook Lopez? What happens when they put both Brook Lopez and Giannis in a Spain pick and roll action with Dame? Like, there's so many ways that they can set this up, where you have Dame as a guy who's going to get doubled that far out past the arc, and you have Giannis, a guy who in the playoffs, like, you have the Boston Celtics sending like 3 guys into the paint every time he drives. Like, it's 2 guys who break the game, one from beyond the arc, one from in the paint, and just purely it just comes down to inside out and who's going to be able to formulate a defense to stop them. And I think it was when you looked at the Nets team where you're like, oh my God, there's so much shot creation, you can't stop all of them. Well, there's ways to do that, but like when both Dame and Giannis are on the floor, I don't hesitate to say that I think in terms of just like pure matching of talent while they're in their prime, like this kind of you know is reminiscent of like obviously Dame is not like Kobe, they not to that level, but in terms of just like pure matching up of talent, a yin and yang, like they really complete the offense just in those 2 players, Dame and Giannis. I mean, you think about Shaq and Kobe, like think about other pairings of players that complement each other so well that other teams just could not plan for it. I don't know, that it's they have a lot of expectations now. That's where it begins. Like they're really going to have to make it big, because people are going to expect huge things from this duo.
Oh yeah, no, the expectations are through the roof now. Like, the expectations are always high when you're the Milwaukee Bucks and you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's a top 2 player in the league, maybe the best player in the league. And then you add into that equation a superstar like Damian Lillard. He's, for the first time in his career, going to a place where he's expected to deliver.
Yeah.
He's expected to step up and do this night in, night out. He's going to have to dominate alongside Giannis. And they're probably kind of in a level now where they're kind of getting under the similar sort of mark of the Suns now that they've added this piece. Like, there's no excuses for them to not go and win the championship now. I still believe that, like, the Celtics could be a very good match for them. And maybe we'll talk about it in a little while. Maybe if the Heat or Philly can make some sort of move out of this, they can still kind of stay close. Maybe not Philly, but maybe Miami. But I still think that it's going to be a good match between the Celtics and the Bucks. I think they'll still be close when it comes to the regular season, and it's going to be a question of who can edge it out then when we get to when we get to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's that sort of mark.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Celtics because I didn't even think about this. But I mean, there's going to be so many teams that are, maybe they made a move, maybe they didn't, and they're like, oh, really? Like they got Dame. And I think the Celtics specifically, you have to think about, whether or not if they would have looked into the future and saw Giannis and Dame together, if they would have thought about keeping Marcus Smart around. Defensively speaking, that's the team to beat, and you're not getting to the finals unless you beat the Bucks at this point, presumably. At least as a GM, you might think that way. I think Marcus Smart is a much more valuable asset right now than Kristaps Porzingis, because Kristaps Porzingis isn't going to help you. He's going to help you defend Giannis, but he's not going to help you defend Giannis as much as Marcus Smart is going to help you defend Damian Lillard. Like that, Marcus Smart is a guy that you bring into a series, and you got an opposing guard that you want to try and shut down. He's not going to shut down Damian Lillard, but he's going to give him a really tough time. Then you add on Derek White, you add on Malcolm Brogdon, then you switch on Brown, you switch on Tatum. You're like, all right, we have a lot of weapons to throw at him, but the main thing is Marcus Smart. I think losing Marcus Smart hurts a little bit more now when you're like, wow, we got to get through Dame to get to the finals. Oh, and he's playing with Giannis, so got to figure both that out. I think that's a Monday morning quarterback. That's hindsight 2020. Obviously, you can't plan for that, but I'd imagine if you could redo that, I would at least. Would you?
I mean, but like you just said, there's going to be no defense to stop Giannis and Dame. So maybe the answer is to match them as highly as you can in terms of offensive output, and then just see what you can do in terms of the switching that they can offer as a defensive unit. Yeah, it's going to be extremely difficult. Of course, it's going to be so difficult. You're facing off against two of the most formidable offensive players in the league, but we have seen it before that it hasn't fully clicked, and teams have been able to have that edge when it's kind of the more well-rounded, more balanced to it. But I still think they'd have made the trade, in all honesty. I think you can make the argument that they were focusing too much on the where Smart let the team down offensively rather than his overall team impact and defensive impact. But I still think they would have made that move, because I still think they saw a bigger weakness on the offensive end that needed to be filled rather than the defensive impact of Smart. Maybe that will change as we go through the season. We could ask me this question in another 3 or 4 months. I might have a very different answer. But for now, I think it's a bit too wild to kind of think back on on that sort of level.
Yeah. And just looking right now, just staying with the Bucks, and thinking about their offense and thinking how they thinned out a little bit. Losing Grayson Allen, isn't nothing, because when we were breaking down the Bucks, and just clarifying, when we rated them lowly, it's kind of like how they did in the offseason, what they addressed. Again, it's so ironic that they're kind of the team that were like, all right, they've dried out the savings account, they've dried out the bonds, they've sold all the stocks, and then they checked in under their bed and they had $1 million, and somehow now they have Damian Lillard. And a couple things to think about though with this change is, it's all sunshine, butterflies, thinking about like what Dame's going to do with Giannis, and that's all good and well. That's going to be fantastic. But I think you do need to consider what's going to happen with defense. And I think they'll be fine. I still think they'll be a top 10 defense. Losing Jrue Holiday though is, just talking about losing Marcus Smart, losing Jrue Holiday is like that is going to have a massive impact on this defense. It's going to have a really big ripple effect. And I think it's a ripple effect that they're prepared to handle, because I think Brook Lopez had the healthiest year in recent memory. I can't remember the last time he's played that many games and been so successful, both as a shooter and most importantly as a rim protector. And I think that's the one thing that's going to keep this afloat right now. Not, keep it afloat, but keep them as a top 10 defense. Is they have a lot of room for error when you have Brook Lopez back there, when you have Giannis roaming and Brook Lopez allowing Giannis to roam. And I think that is one weak point to this team throughout the course of the season. However, when I'm looking at it, because when you got a guy like Jrue Holiday, that solves so many issues on the perimeter. You don't have a lot of Chris Middleton's a great defender. He's a good defender, but Jrue Holiday, I think, brings it to another level. And if Brook Lopez gets hurt, who doesn't have a completely healthy season, and you see Giannis maybe playing more time at the 5 and not being able to play more of a roaming role, which really gets them to a place. I think that you're going to see that losing Jrue Holiday and replacing with Dame on the defensive end, that's going to have a ripple effect that the Bucks organization need to figure out, beyond just, this awesome offense. Like, they need to keep the defense intact, and how they're going to deal with the point of attack, and how they're going to, maybe figure out some center depth as well to keep Lopez healthy. That's important to figure out now.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, it's going to have a big impact with a guy like Holiday, who's such a catalyst on the defensive end. I assume they're looking at Chris Middleton and thinking, we have him back fully healthy for a season that covers paves over the cracks a little bit in the defense, and you believe that there's enough there that it won't have too big of an impact, like you said. But I think in certain moments it's going to be very obvious. It's going to be you're going to really notice that gap. But I think on the whole, I think there's enough cover there. And if I don't know what sort of money they've got. There's still some free agents out there that will play for a year for very little money, I believe. So I think they have to be a bit shrewd now in who they look to target in terms of what's left on the free agency market, to maybe, like you said, just add that little bit more center depth so you're not burning out Brook Lopez and he's healthy once you get to the playoffs. Because again, yeah, we're expecting great things all year, but the most important thing is that everyone's healthy for the Milwaukee Bucks when we get to May, we get to June. That's when they want to be playing their best basketball. So that's what the regular season is all about, is just making sure things click. They have a new head coach, see how things go with that. And it's going to be interesting to see. Like, you look at Chris Middleton, you say, like, obviously I questioned him when we were talking before. I was thinking that he's probably done and not going to get back to that level. But you think even if he's back healthy this year, that makes them a pretty legitimate title contender, a pretty legitimate top 2 seed in the entire NBA. And then
that's the wrong question, Ronan. That's the wrong question. Are they the favorite? Who's the favorite?
I think they're level with the Celtics. I called the Celtics as my top team before. I think it could still go. I think that would still be a 7-game series, and it might just come down to the clutch play of a guy like Damian Lillard or something like that.
I don't know. I really can't. I can't say that. I really. This is probably too early. It's probably overreaction, but I think when I look back on the Bucks and I look at the issues they've had, it's when they go in these offensive lulls, and that there isn't a shot creator there, and that was our issue with them, Ronan. It was like Chris, they were the best, and they were winning. They were going to win a championship, and they did win a championship when Chris Middleton was a primary creator, and he was really like the Bucks offense just had nothing going. You throw it to him, you give him some space, he goes to work, and he starts it, and he on his own will go on a 7-0 run, and that's things that you don't notice, but in the playoffs, like it's huge, and you just got Damian, and that solved that issue. Is where's your offense coming from besides Giannis just bulldozing through, because Giannis can't do that for 7 games. No one can do that for 7 games in a series. And you just answer that with the best shot creator in the league. Like, you didn't get Jordan Poole, you didn't get DeMar DeRozan. I don't know. You didn't get, like, you got Damian Lillard. Like, you got the best shot creator in the league. Right, maybe Devin Booker fans will come at me, but I don't know. Damian Lillard, like, there's maybe we'll have that argument at some point. Who's the best shot creator in the league? I'm taking Dame, but if you just answer the biggest offensive question, and as we're talking about it, if their defense is still intact, like that to me makes them a favorite. Like, that was the biggest issue for them. And again, I don't see how you solve that problem, how you solve the Dame problem without completely leaving yourself vulnerable to the Giannis problem. I don't see how you solve the Giannis problem without leaving yourself completely vulnerable to the Dame problem. And that synergy there is going to be just deadly. And who has answers to that?
I don't know. I mean, looking at what we've seen so far, I think we're dreaming now that we have to have Phoenix Suns, Milwaukee Bucks NBA Finals, right? I guess you could throw the Nuggets in there too. But you think now you're still like
You can.
it's a 4-team
I
race at the
guess
moment, isn't
I
it?
guess you can throw in the defending NBA champs, I guess.
It's a 4-team race. You think right now?
Absolutely destroyed LeBron. You can
Yeah.
throw
Come
in
on,
like,
come on.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. 4-team race at the moment. I think when you're looking at it as a whole.
Yeah.
But like last year, we saw a team like the Lakers push it along. They've improved this year. You like in Miami, they're always going to be there. And if maybe they look to they try to add Jrue Holiday, what does that do for that for the Miami Heat team? Are they still going to be that dogged team that's able to compete at that sort of level? That's going to be interesting to see. But I think now that the Bucks have added Dame, it's them and the Celtics in the East, and it's Denver and Phoenix in the West. And if anyone else can step over that and be able to get beyond that, they might go down as like either the luckiest or the one of the best teams ever if they're able to get over those mountains.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do that. Let's quickly hit. I mean, we can't forget. It's not all about Dame. Like, we gotta talk about the other guys. They're important too.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it. I actually thought about this. Like, it was like maybe the third team I thought about was the Miami Heat, because I thought that would just be hilarious. That'd be amazing for the Heat to get Jrue for a number of reasons. I mean, like he's the second option to Dame. Like, you didn't get Dame, you got Jrue, I guess. And then Jrue going to the team that's just given the Bucks fits over the years. But Jrue Holiday, Jimmy Butler, well, that would be quite the pairing. Offensively, like, they would have their struggles, but man, like trying to score through Jimmy, Jrue, and Bam Adebayo, what? Like that would be a really fun. I mean, that would totally match like Miami Heat culture. The Jrue Holiday obviously fits that team great. Well, what other teams were you thinking of? Like, who's right now like eyeing Jrue Holiday? Be like, okay, we need to think about this.
I mean, it has to be the 76ers. I think
Okay.
They're under pressure to make a move. They got to get rid of James Harden. They have to be getting onto the Clippers and thinking, is there a way we can make a 3-team trade work here? Send Harden out to the Clippers, send Jrue Holiday to the 76ers. You're looking at probably Powell, Batum, and maybe like Amir Coffey or something like that to Portland plus a couple of picks. I think that's kind of an area that Philly really have to pursue strongly, because they're in a hole right now. They are so far off of Boston and Milwaukee, and obviously for Miami, you'd be like getting the silver medal. They wanted Dame and they end up with Jrue Holiday, but I think for Philly, he'd bring a much needed stability to the team. He'd be a really good player beside Tyrese Maxey in the backcourt. And I think it's just an important player to add if they're able to getting rid of James Harden. I think that's a move they gotta look at.
So I thought about them, but I didn't. This is also while talking to myself in the car, which I guess maybe produces not the best end results. But I didn't think about the 3-team trade aspect of it, and that's definitely possible, because I tried to think of like who's going to be the most desperate team to make a deal for Jrue Holiday, and oh my god, it is absolutely the 76ers. Like, if anyone is going to give up everything to try and figure out how to get Jrue Holiday, like, it's 100% going to be the 76ers. And it would take some assets, and it would that's intriguing. In every time we talk about trades, I always just keep thinking about the Raptors.
They need a point guard.
Yeah, I really, and Jrue Holiday is a guy that would really help round them out defensively and in the rotation, and I think he would be a great lead playmaker for this team. I don't. It's just about who they're willing to deal, and it's such a weird position that they're in, because they're just not in an aggressive mode right now, because I don't think they know who to value the most, and I think this is a dangerous grounds to be in, because you don't know, when does Siakam get sick of it? How do you develop Scotty Barnes? The whole other conversation, but I thought of them for sure. I actually thought of another team who was really in the market for a superstar, whiffed out because they didn't want to trade one of their young guys, has proven that they're still in this race and have proven that they're willing to continue to get better and have made trades to do it or signed big. And I feel like the New York Knicks could really do something interesting with, the deficiency that you have with Jalen Brunson and the backcourt could be corrected quite easily with Jrue Holiday there. And, they have the assets to do it. And they clearly are trying to get better. They clearly have just, everyone under the Bucks have been demoted a little bit based on what's just changed, what's really taken place here. And I think that's a quick way for them to improve amidst the chaos. What say you?
Yeah, I would even say that it'd be smart for them to try and acquire a guy like Holiday just to make things worse in Philly and hopefully push Embiid towards wanting to leave and then make a really big move at that. That's
stress, not checkers. How can we get Embiid more unhappy?
Yeah,
let's just be more.
That's gotta be that could be an idea there, but it would be. Yeah, I don't know what sort of way they'd make that move. Like, is RJ Barrett included in that package? Is it just picks? What way would the package work?
Okay.
Which what were you thinking?
I need to address one thing before we even talk about who's going to be put on the table. You just were bashing RJ Barrett last podcast, and now that's going to be your gripe for getting Jrue Holiday is going to be RJ Barrett. I haven't even mentioned his name yet. And you're like,
I didn't say
better not be RJ Barrett.
I'm just saying,
you better not take this player that I don't even like away from me. Don't you dare touch this player I don't even want on my team.
I only just say those things. It's still my dream that RJ Barrett will be the
best.
Yeah,
I know. It's tough. It's tough love. But if it's not RJ Barrett, it's definitely. They still have all these picks, and what are the Knicks going to do with all these picks?
They were going to get Giannis, but I guess that's out the window. And now I think their target's Embiid. That's what the Knicks are looking at. They missed out on Donovan Mitchell.
Did you just say they were going to get Giannis?
Yeah, when he was willing to leave,
Dude, that didn't even show up on my normal NBA feed. That just showed up on the deep dark web of of New York Knicks. Was that on a New York Knicks subreddit? What were you?
Anyway, that was in lots of places, brother. That was in lots of places. When you're a Knicks fan, it was everywhere.
But this is realistic and helpful. Really, I think him and Tibbs' system and he can really carry a heavy load, and carry the demand of what Tibbs wants to do. And the one thing for me is if they were willing to give up, if they were really, really not liking the idea of giving up your young guys, giving up not McBride, name finding difficulties, 16 hours away. Call me out, Ronan. Your other young guy, your other young shooting guard, defensive minded. We were really happy about how well he was shooting the ball, Mr. Nick.
Emmanuel Quickly, no.
Oh, who cares? I couldn't possibly in half a second, Emmanuel Quickley's gone if that means getting Jrue Holiday. And actually, that's a 6-man for Portland. Evaluate that. Not McBride.
They got
Quentin Grimes.
They got 20 guards already in there.
Quentin Grimes. No, Quentin Grimes is perfect for them. Perfect for the Blazers. I think that's why I thought of the Knicks is because I think Portland is going to look for guys, obviously, who fit their timeline. And a guy like Quentin Grimes, a really up and coming. Grimes
2 firsts, will that work, you think?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If we're playing this game, I would say yes immediately. And maybe I'd leak it to a reporter and then see if anyone else tops that offer.
Even you think it's still, they still have a decent bit of draft assets, even with giving away two first round picks. So I think if that's a move that they could make, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Well, it's about the market, right? So if it's Jovic and picks, or if I'm choosing Hero, Jovic picks for Jrue, or if I'm doing Grimes picks for Jrue, I'm taking Grimes and picks. That makes more sense for my team and what I'm trying to do for the Blazers, what I'm trying to do for Scoot, what I'm trying maybe for Simon, maybe Simons is going to be there. That's what we'll talk about. That. I'm really looking forward to talking about Simons and Scoot in the future because I was thinking about that today, and I think a lot of people are just thinking about Simons as an asset as opposed to future. So just a side note, I think Blazers consider him as part of their future. But Grimes alongside them, I think that's a lot more intriguing than Hero, who probably wants to go to a team where if he's leaving the Heat, okay, make me the guy. I'm the guy. That's not what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can we talk about Ayton?
Yeah, let's get into that. We'll say that. So I think the Knicks and the 76ers, I feel like Jrue Holiday will end up remaining in the West, or in the East, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
He won't.
I think so
He's definitely
too.
not staying in Portland, and I think the Eastern Conference teams are desperate to make the move now that they've not been able to get Damian Lillard, and I think there's more than a few teams that would want to add him. What do you say there?
Unless. Just again, thinking about the market, thinking about like who's thinking. Can the Lakers come up with something? And maybe not right now. If nothing happens, maybe you have to wait till all their new contracts expire. But D'Lo's contract, I have not done the math. I can't look as.
D'Lo's got a 3-year deal, I know, and just Jrue Holiday's last year he's in now, so I don't know. That might hurt a little bit.
That's something I thought about too. Is can the Lakers get in on this? But I digress. So many people. It's going to be. There could be a little bidding war, honestly, on Jrue Holiday, because I think there's less of a bidding war for Dame, where it's like teams are like, okay, we can't cough up everything we own. We're not even going to try.
Yeah.
But Jrue, it's like, okay, there's more of a dynamic market when you have a lot of teams that can actually put together assets and make a reasonable offer, and then that's going to be interesting because he's going to be a game changer for a lot of teams and change the fortunes of some teams that, you know, like the 76ers that are in tough waters. But fortunes changing also for Ayton, who, I mean, this just says everything we needed to know. I think everyone knew. It was the worst kept secret that, you know, Ayton was really on his way out there even for the past couple of years. And, you know, we were kind of curious how he would evolve on a team like this without Chris Paul, without really a system that's built around him at all, with him being like kind of a fourth option. And now he's in Portland. So just forgetting, let's like from this point forward, I'm not even going to think about him as a son. I'm just going to think about him as Deandre Ayton now with the Blazers. What do you think he can do in this season without the pressure, without, you know, maybe kind of this not that there was drama, but kind of like you know, when you're in a situation you don't want to be in, maybe you don't play your best. Maybe he's got a fresh start. He's happy with that. And also considering with a younger team, where do you expect him to have a better performance, worse performance, same performance? Like, what are you expecting for DeAndre Ayton now that he's finally gotten his wish and gone somewhere else?
I expect better performance because I still believe that there is a player there. I think this is kind of his year to show it. I think if he doesn't show it this year, it kind of feels like he's set in his ways, and unfortunately his game just isn't going to develop into the NBA, and he's going to be just a standard 18 and 10 kind of big man for his career, maybe just start hopping around the teams. I think that's the way it could go, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but the talent that he's got, I mean, he's only 25 years old. He's getting a fresh start. He needs that bit of extra time to develop into the player that he wants to be in this league. He needs that time, like you said, with the spotlight off. There's going to be no lights on DeAndre Ayton. People are going to look a few months down the line and say, wow, this guy's averaging over 20 points per game. He's really become looking like a much better player out there in Portland. I think that's the way it's going to go for him this season. And I think he's going to get more opportunities to get to his shots, get to his spots, especially on the offensive end. If he can help that little bit extra in terms of rim protection. I know that's not generally his forte as a defender, but he needs to have that little bit. As a 7-foot guy, he's got to be getting up there. He's got to be averaging at least one block a game. Like that's kind of a bare minimum for a 7-foot guy. That's your center. he's the main big man on the team now. I think he's the next is going to be like Jeremy Grant, especially in the starting lineup. And I think we're going to get closer to seeing why people compared him to some of the great big men of all time when he was coming into the draft. They were comparing him to Hakeem, KG, AD. I'm not saying he's going to get to those levels, but I think we're going to see it a bit more clearly, saying like, oh, that makes a little bit more sense why those ideas were floated out there.
Yeah, I have legitimate concerns about how he'll function on this team. So I think as as a talent evaluator, a GM will look at Ayton and really think about what you can reclaim there. And we already talked about the value of this trade for the Blazers and how it was better than what they were going to get from the Heat or anyone else. And I still find that to be true before I say this, but I think that Ayton has the potential to be exactly what you said, is to be a pretty mediocre player for this team. And the reason I say that is not because I think he's a crummy player, not going to be successful, but I don't think that what he wants to do offensively will match what Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and even Jeremy Grant, I think will do to the best of their ability. And this team is not geared towards, hey, how can we get DeAndre Ayton to be the best player he can be? This team is geared towards, hey, we just got Scoot freaking Henderson. Shaedon Sharpe looks really good. And Anthony Simons has looked pretty good when we don't have Dame. These guys love to play fast. These guys love to play fast. And getting downhill and, really focusing on a three-point game for Anthony Simons and not a whole lot of pick and roll operators. I mean, Anthony Simons is a good playmaker. He is, and he proved it. I want to say he was averaging 7 assists, right, when he was on that stretch without Dame. I mean, he was facilitating and scoring. So, not to say that there's going to be no playmakers. I think there are some playmakers, and maybe Scoot Henderson really surprises us as a rookie. But typically, rookies aren't the guy to get their big man going. But Ayton, I think where Ayton would really thrive is this kind of archaic, mid-post face-up game where he plays a little patient. He has really nice touch around the rim. But it's like, how often are you going to have that sort of play? And maybe that's kind of a switch up. Maybe this team wants to try and adjust the pace and have a little bit of have a way to slow things down during the game. It's because you can't play fast all the time. Maybe Ayton's their outlet for that. They throw the ball to Grant sometimes, do a little ISO. Maybe they throw the ball to Ayton, get him a little face up just to slow things down. But it's not this system that I predict that they'll try to work towards, given that the talent that they have, the best young talent. I don't think it's really going to be geared towards what Ayton is best at doing. So I'm curious as to like what kind of growth he expects to have here. And if he does, it'll surprise me, to be honest. It will surprise me if he does evolve this year into this like great big man. I don't know.
So those points you make are interesting. I just listen to what you're saying. Obviously, it makes total sense. And maybe they're looking to tap into maybe his potential as a defender rather than what he can offer them as an offensive threat. Maybe that's something that they're a bit more focused on. And obviously, he's able to move his feet. He could, if it was more his focus, I think when coming into the league, he was kind of having to be the two-way guy. He was the high pick. He had to really kind of try and do it all, and he was under pressure to do that with Chris Paul coming in and Devin Booker and the Suns kind of growing to that level. Maybe now, if they come in and go, we're going to play fast, you're going to be for the most part there as a lob threat and as a guy who's putting the ball back, and the odd time you'll get it maybe in the post and you get the shot there. But for the most part, we want you to thrive as a defender, kind of pick up almost sort of a Bam Adebayo type of role out in Miami. I think that might be an area where the Blazers look to develop him rather than think of him as a guy who's going to really step into this elite offensive game coming into Portland, because the offense is going to be in the hands of the three guards. I think it's very likely you see Sharpe, Simons, and Scoot Henderson all starting this season, and then you're going to have Grant and Ayton, and they're going to be kind of bystanders offensively for large periods, I'd say. So I think defensively could be the area that the Blazers are thinking that he's going to add that value.
Yeah, and health. like he's going to play more than Nurkic. He's young, so you have time to figure it out. You hope he has that change in mindset, just being on a different team, because I think there's so many times that you feel frustrated with Ayton's. You don't even want to say effort, because sometimes effort suggests that they like that they take the play off, but sometimes, he just doesn't have the motor. It's not. I feel like effort and motor are sometimes a little bit different, and that there are players who have motor sometimes, and they just don't do it because maybe they're just not mentally in it. And sometimes I don't know if it's necessarily that Aiden's not mentally in it, but he just doesn't have the instinct to turn it on. I don't know. It's hard to describe that difference there, but if he changes, then that's great. Maybe that player is there, but there are just times when he just should be dominating the paint, should be dominating the boards, should be, really patrolling the paint. And like you said, like if he is going to become a real defensive player, like a really good defensive player, that changes who Deandre Ayton is. Because right now he's good. He's fine.
He's in the middle of most ends, really.
Yeah, and it's like he's above average on both ends in a way that makes him a very good center. Like he's very balanced. Like he's got like his offensive touch. Like it's hard. Like he's got offensive touch that's the top 10 percentile. Like he's got really great touch. But he's not. But he doesn't have he doesn't shown it to the point where you're like I have to throw the ball here. Like unless unless he's got a mismatch, and then defensively, like he's fine, but he's not really changing the game. And that's how much of that do you get from Yusuf Nurkic too? Like what's going to be the big difference? Like except for him being healthy and matching the timeline. But I do hope that works out, because in terms of youth, like you can't imagine a better kind of timeline that like centers may take a little bit more time to figure out how to play defense in this league, and now he's getting mature into a really mature big man for Scoot, for Simons. But I want to talk about the Suns a little bit before we wrap up here.
Last point on Ayton, I'll say the dude has 3 years to figure it out in Portland. I think 3 years time he'll be 28, and the rest of the team will probably really only be getting going. So you can make the argument that he kind of has 2-3 years to really kind of figure it out. That's got to be encouraging for Portland fans, and hopefully it is for DeAndre Ayton as well. The pressure's off. It's time to deliver. What about the Suns? The Suns did quite well out of this deal. I think it was important for them to get off Ayton's contract. I think that was kind of the biggest part of them being involved in this. But they had a couple of nice pieces like Nasir Little. Nurkic, if he's healthy, is more than solid piece. It's just that's such a big question mark with him. So I think when I was looking at this before, I was kind of like, is this a 3-team trade where kind of all the teams did pretty well out of it? Like no one was forced really into anything, to be honest. Truly, like no one's really forced into anything. And I'm just trying to remember. It was Toumani Camara, because I was trying to remember who is Toumani Camara. I don't know, rookie. Someone that they drafted. Phoenix rookie. That Milwaukee drafted this year, wasn't it?
Okay.
He's gone to Portland as well, yeah.
Okay. God, I'm sorry, Toumani, we didn't mention you, but I hope you do great in Portland too. A great development area. But got another shooter. I don't know the value of it's going to be interesting, like who gets to earn the spot, and I think that's going to be if Phoenix can develop a good culture, and Frank Vogel I think is. I'm going to say that it seems like Frank Vogel has really created great atmospheres for guys to earn their spots in the rotation, for there to be lots of variation in the rotation. I don't think he's been overly committed to one guy or multiple guys, and I think that that's going to prove to be very helpful for a team that actually has become, like we talked about before, pretty deep actually. Surprisingly, like maybe there's not necessarily like killer options, like obvious, like these guys are going to be in the rotate. Like they're guys going to earn their spot in the rotation, And I think if you can develop a good culture around that, then that's super valuable. It's super valuable. Like a guy like Nasir Little, I still have Nasir Little stock. I really do still believe in this guy. He has all the physicals to be just a fantastic player on both ends in this league. And just the flashes of shooting that we got last year, flashes of putting the ball on the floor and like just doing the little things offensively. Just that, like, he's a guy that on a team like this can make a massive impact, man. Like if he literally just like sits down and can hit a corner three, like we raved about Josh Okogie and what he's done for this team. Like you got Josh Okogie's, you got Nasir Littles, and those guys are going to really jump off the page when you have a Suns team that's so offensively loaded. Guys like that, Yuta Watanabe's. I really do love. I love that the outside guys they have in this rotation. Really, like they're not going to be guys we talk about all year. There's going to be a Yuta Watanabe month where he's going to shoot like 60% from three and be just diving for loose balls, like crack his head open against a chair on the sideline. You're gonna have a Josh Okogie month where he averages like 20 a game and is like getting three. Like you're gonna have, I think that's what it takes for teams like this. Is these guys maybe aren't gonna have it all year long, but you just have guys who have super high effort, high character, and this year little a young guy I think can develop his character into that. I'm excited. Like they added another guy who I think fits that, and he's a young guy too. So who knows under a system like this if he can develop into a truly important player down the stretch. And just like you saw from the Nuggets, you didn't know at the beginning of the season that Bruce Brown was going to be a massive part of that championship. You didn't know that Christian Braun was going to be a massive part of that. And who's going to be those guys for the Suns? And you have a locker room full of guys who I think are capable of attaining that. And if you just develop the culture right to cultivate that and these guys and have them be ready, I think the Suns are ready, man. The Suns have really done a good job rounding out their roster when it seems like they had nothing.
Yeah, no, they did. They really do. They really worked it well, and the couple of role players that they got in for Ayton, and like it obviously changes if Nurkic is like he has been the last few years and he's mostly hurt, but if he's healthy, that really changes this, and that really vaults them into in terms of like team depth. Like not even thinking about the three superstars that they have, team depth has been unbelievable. Like the work that the front office has done, you have to say there's a lot of respect. I think whoever's in charge there could be in for an award come the end of the season in terms of executive of the year or something like that. Whoever's been in charge of wheeling and dealing to put this Suns teams together has definitely done a good job. But to finish off, I'll ask you a
James
question.
Jones. They name him James Jones.
James Jones. Okay, sorry.
Great 3-point shooter of the Miami Heat.
Okay, I'm sorry. Final question. Look into your crystal ball. We're sitting here 5 years' time. Which team has done the best out of this deal?
Oh. Not the easy. So it's the Bucks. The Bucks are going to win a champion. Like the Bucks are going to win a championship with Dame and Giannis.
I agree. I think I definitely agree on that. I think they're more likely
that would be the great Ronan. That would just be the greatest tragedy of this generation for Dame to be with Giannis and for Dame not to win a championship.
Is he gonna go full Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony mode? That's not gonna happen. Okay.
No, like Dame's game is just really like aged like fine wine, and just he's due. He's due. It's gonna happen.
The title is coming, Dame. Don't you worry. It's almost here. You've made your move. You're in Milwaukee now. A big day, Chris. I appreciate you making time to talk. I hope you're able to enjoy it a little bit. The trade of the summer has gone down. Now we'll see what happens with Jrue Holiday, what potentially might happen with James Harden, which teams are going to be involved in the trade talks for those guys. That remains to be seen, but the big one has dropped. Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks. That's going to do it for today's episode. My thanks to Chris for joining me. Thank you all so much for listening. Love to hear your views on the Dame trade and where you think Jrue Holiday should end up. Remember, connect with us on social media. We are everywhere at Coast to Coast NBA. And most importantly, remember to take every shot and love every moment.
Shout out Ronan's new Wi-Fi. Peace.